Okay, so today we are diving into the world of sensor engineering. We've got some pretty cool materials on this one
Hmm.
from RoleCatcher, like their career guide and some information about their platform for job seekers. It
Hmm.
seems like whoever sent this in
Right.
is interested in not just what sensor engineering is, but also like how to actually get a job in this field.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting and timely topic because it's such a
Yeah,
growing field right now.
right. Definitely booming.
Yeah.
So
Lots of opportunity.
to kick things off, can you give us a quick overview of what a sensor engineer actually does all day? I feel like most people probably interact with sensors constantly without even realizing it.
Yeah, exactly. I think a good example is self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do those cars actually see the world around them? Well, they use sensors. Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, so sensor engineers are the ones who are designing and developing those sensors to be as accurate and reliable as possible.
That makes sense. So we're talking like the eyes of the car, basically.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing it's not just self-driving cars, right?
Oh, not even close. We're talking smartphones, fitness trackers, those smart refrigerators that tell you when you're low on milk sensors are everywhere.
It's mind-blowing when you really stop and think about it.
It really is.
Now, the RoleCatcher guide mentions this term, Internet of Things, or IoT, as they like to call it. It sounds very futuristic,
It does.
but what does it actually mean for someone working in sensor engineering?
Basically, the IoT is all about connecting everyday devices to the internet. So, like, your refrigerator can tell you it's low on milk, but it can also order more for you automatically through the internet.
Things like that.
Okay, so sensor engineers are kind of like the architects of this whole interconnected world.
That's one way to put it.
So this field sounds pretty exciting, especially with all this talk about high demand and great salaries.
Yeah, it's definitely a good time to be looking into sensor engineering.
But the guide also mentions some potential downsides, like crazy deadlines and always having to learn new things.
That's true. It's not always easy.
Hmm.
Technology is constantly evolving, so you really have to be a lifelong learner in this field.
So it's not for someone who just wants to learn one thing and coast for the next 30 years.
Exactly. You've got to be adaptable and always hungry to learn new things.
So it sounds like you need a certain personality type to really thrive in this kind of environment.
Absolutely. You have to be someone who enjoys problem solving, isn't afraid of a challenge, and can think on their feet. But that's what makes it so rewarding. You're always on the cutting edge of innovation, making things that have a real impact on the world.
So let's say someone is hearing all this and is like, sign me up. How do they actually break into the field? The guide mentions automation in the job market, which is kind of funny when you think about it.
Yeah, it is a bit ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we're talking about sensors and now we have algorithms deciding who gets hired to design them.
Right, but that's the reality these days. A lot of companies use what's called an applicant tracking system, or ATS,
Okay.
to filter through resumes.
So it's like this robot gatekeeper you have to get past before a human even looks at your application.
Pretty much. That's why the RoleCatcher guide puts so much emphasis on tailoring your resume and cover letter.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
But like, how specific do you have to be? Is it enough to just say sensor systems, or do you need to list out every single type of sensor you've ever worked with?
I'd say it's more about finding that balance between being specific and not going completely overboard. So yeah, you definitely want to use keywords from the job description,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of just listing skills, try to give concrete examples of how you've used those skills in the past.
So like, instead of just saying design sensor systems, you could say something like developed a network of temperature and humidity sensors to monitor conditions in a greenhouse or something.
Exactly. Paint a picture with your words, you know?
Yeah.
Show them, don't just tell them.
Gotcha. So it's all about showing the impact of your work.
Exactly.
Ah.
And that goes for your cover letter too. Don't just repeat your resume. Use it as an opportunity to really showcase your passion for this field and how your skills and experience align with what the company's looking for.
It's almost like you're giving them a preview of the value you would bring to their team.
Exactly.
Now, one thing that kind of surprised me in this guide was that they listed some skills that seem kind of, well, low-tech for a field like sensor engineering.
Yeah.
Things like reading comprehension
Mhm.
and speaking. Why are those so important if you're going to be like, hunched over a circuit board all day?
It's easy to forget that engineering is a very collaborative field.
Yeah.
You're not just working with sensors, you're working with people. You might be talking to software engineers one minute and then giving a presentation to a group of executives the next. Being able to communicate your ideas clearly and concisely is super important.
Especially if you're trying to explain complex technical concepts to someone who doesn't have an engineering background.
See, exactly.
You need to be able to break things down in a way that anyone can understand.
So you've aced the interview, landed the job. What's next? What does the actual career path look like for a sensor engineer?
Well, like most engineering fields, you usually start in a more junior role, like a sensor engineer or something like that.
Okay.
And at that level, you're really focused on building your technical skills, working on specific parts of larger projects,
Mm-hmm.
and learning from more experienced engineers. It's
Yeah.
very much a learning phase.
So lots of hands-on experience, mastering the fundamentals.
Exactly.
Then what? How do
Yeah.
you move up from there?
Well, as you gain experience, you might take on more responsibility, maybe leading projects or mentoring junior engineers.
You might even specialize in a particular type of sensor or industry.
Oh, yeah, the guy did mention specialization.
Hmm.
What are some of the areas where a sensor engineer could really carve out a niche?
Ooh, there are so many cool options these days. Remember we were talking about LiDAR sensors earlier?
For self-driving cars.
Right, those are huge right now. And then there's the whole world of biosensors, which are used in everything from medical diagnostics to wearable health trackers.
Wow, that's amazing. So no shortage of interesting paths you can take. But no matter what area you choose, the guide really stresses the importance of continuous learning. What does that actually look like in practice? How do you stay updated in such a fast-paced field?
It definitely takes effort. The guide mentions some good starting points like joining professional organizations.
Like the IE.
Exactly. Attending industry conferences, reading research papers, all that good stuff.
So basically being part of the larger conversation in your field.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to think outside the box, too. Follow influential people on social media. Play around with open source sensor platforms.
I like that. It's like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Ah,
Well, I feel like we've covered a ton of ground in this deep
you
dive,
really have.
from the what and the why of sensor engineering all the way to the how to break into the field, build a successful career, and even specialize in some seriously cool stuff.
And we talked about how important it is to develop strong communication skills, embrace continuous learning, and never lose that curiosity and excitement about technology.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something that the RoleCatcher materials mentioned. They're AI-powered tools.
Oh, yeah, the resume optimizers and all that.
Exactly.
Sure.
It got me thinking, do those tools actually work? Or is it just clever marketing? This whole question of humans versus AI in the job hunt is a fascinating one. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, too, and honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. Technology is always changing, so who knows what the future holds. But at the end of the day, I think the human element will always be important. Your passion, your drive, your ability to connect with other people, those are the things that really make you stand out.
Couldn't agree more. Well, there you have it, everyone. Hopefully this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the exciting world of sensor engineering. It's a field that's only going to become more important in the years to come, so if you're intrigued, I encourage you to learn more. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one designing the sensors of the future.
The future is full of sensors, that's for sure.